While these dozens of Israeli hostages have been reunited with loved ones in the past few days, including today, many others are still waiting for that to happen. Dual U.S.-Israeli citizen Hirsch Goldberg Poland was at the Supernova Music Festival when Hamas attacked back on October 7th. His arm was blown off by a grenade before he was loaded into a truck at gunpoint. His mother has not stopped fighting for his safe return since. Rachel Goldberg joins us now. Rachel, thank you so much for joining us. As hard as this is, I can only imagine what you have been through. What is your message right now as we continue to watch what is happening there and more hostages have been turned over?
Well, first of all, I am actually thrilled with how the progression of these hostages being returned, especially I just saw right now, because I had been on calls until I just was waiting for you guys to let me in. I just saw that a dear friend of ours, wife and daughter, were released tonight. And I can't describe how happy these last few nights of seeing these children going back to their families, of seeing these women and daughters and sisters and mothers going back to their families. So that's been incredible. And I'm very aware that, all of these deals are held together by the thinnest of threads. And my message, first of all, is I hope that we can keep doing this. I hope that the aid that is desperately needed in Gaza gets to where it needs to be. And I hope that more and more hostages are released. I would love bigger numbers of hostages, because I think having 10 at a time leaves a lot of room for that delicate thread to break at some point. And of course, I worry about my son, who I know was in critical condition, is now permanently for the rest of his life without a limb. And, I'm concerned for his health. I don't know if he's getting the antibiotics that he needs. I'm hoping that he got the surgery that he needed. So I'm very concerned, but I am thrilled with the releases of all of these, hostages who have gone through, the ones released today have gone through 53 days of being held in a terrible condition, in a traumatic way.
Hi, Rachel. It's John Roberts here, along with Sandra. We can't imagine the conditions and the fear that all of these folks have been living with for the last 53 days. The fact that Mia Shem, who was one of the first hostages released, who had a serious wound to her upper arm and did receive medical care at the hands of a Palestinian doctor, I'm sure that potentially gives you some comfort that Hirsch's wounds were attended to.
I am so hopeful that hearing that several, and in fact, Maya Regev was released 2 days ago. She's 21, and she was at that same music festival that Hirsch was at. And she was shot in the leg, I believe, 2 or 3 times, and she was treated. And that gave me a lot of hope that, I know that there are plenty of talented doctors in Gaza. And I know that the surgery that Hirsch needed when his arm was blown off, we spoke to trauma surgeons, all over to find out what kind of, and they looked at the video. We had video of his arm that was blown off. And they looked at it frame by frame and explained to us that the procedure he needed was actually not complicated. A general surgeon could do it, because what they really needed to do was to go where the messy, exploded part was, and just go above it and amputate, which is a relatively, it sounds horrible, but it's a relatively straightforward surgery. And if he got that, and then was able to get, the bigger concern is afterwards, if you get the antibiotics that you need so that sepsis doesn't sink in and infection doesn't sink in. So I am hopeful that they took care of him. And I've been hopeful all along that I know there are plenty of good people in Gaza. I hope that somebody is being kind to my son.
We pray that is the case, and to hear the hope coming from you, it keeps us all alive, and we're praying for him. And that hope is coming from what you just said was the friend and her daughter that you've been following so closely. Mia Leinberg, 17 years old, was among those released in this latest batch. Gabriella Leinberg, 59 years old, the mother of that teenager released. The daughter, the 17-year-old girl, was kidnapped with her family dog, Bella. It's a story that we have all been following throughout this. Mia is in the bottom middle there, her mother just to the left there of her photo. And what an incredible story this is. And we'll wait to see what they hear about their time in captivity, Rachel.
Yeah. We're thrilled. I'm thrilled for respectively, the father and husband of Gabriella and Mia, who is now a dear friend. He actually last week we went to Rome and met with the Pope. And it was there, it was Mr. Lemberg who was with us. And I'm over the moon for him. He has his family back.
Yeah, but at the same time, you again sit here waiting and wondering what the status of Hershey is and whether he will ever come out. We heard maybe some words of encouragement from the IDF just moments ago. Lieutenant Colonel Jonathan Conricus joined us to say that there was a 10-day window on this ceasefire. And if 10 hostages or 12 hostages were released every day for 10 days, that would pretty much account for all of the hostages that remain.
It wouldn't. There's still 170.
Right. So, well, if you had 12 over 10 days, 120, maybe you add to that. He was suggesting that it would come close. But you mentioned
I would love it.
You mentioned that you visited with the Pope. You also visited with another sort of famous person the other day at the home of the President Isaac Herzog, Elon Musk. What did you say to Mr. Musk?
So similar to what I did with the Pope is I showed him the video that I have of Hirsch being taken by gunpoint with his left arm missing from the elbow down, being loaded onto a pickup truck. And at the end, there's a young man also who's around 21, 22. I don't know his age. I don't know this boy, who was picked up by his hair and thrown onto the pickup truck. It's a very short video. It's 45 seconds, I think. And I shared it with him. You guys are journalists. Words mean a lot, but a picture's worth 1,000 words, and I think a video's worth 1,000,000 words. And he was very obviously concerned, expressed, sympathy. I think it was he had a very emotional day. He had gone down with the prime minister and seen the situation at some of the kibbutzim that were struck. And he also heard, you see in that picture that you're showing, there were 4 families that each of us told about our loved one who was kidnapped. And, it was a very human moment.
Well, we also know that there is still a 10-month-old baby being held captive, and the great aunt of that baby was on this network earlier, family speaking out, saying, bring this baby home, now 10-month-old in captivity. She makes the case that Hamas is stalling by saying that they don't know where some of these hostages are. And Rachel, I wanted to get your response to this. Listen.
There are different groups inside the Gaza Strip. Hamas is controlling there powerfully. I think, in my opinion, again, that saying that they don't know where they are is another way of stalling and buying time.
Your response to that, Rachel?
I really have no idea. Honestly, I don't presume to understand what's happening in Gaza right now. I do think, from what I understand, there is a lot of chaos. Remember, there's a lot of displaced people. there's a lot of destroyed buildings. I think there's total pandemonium and chaos. And so I don't know if it's, as Yifat was suggesting, if it's that they're pretending that they don't know where people are, or if in fact, because of all of the pandemonium and chaos, and I don't think even starting from October 7th, I don't think that it was the most organized situation. I don't think the plan was to have 240 people spanning an age from 8 months old to an 87-year-old Holocaust survivor, to people from 30 different countries, to people who are Jewish, Christian, Muslim, Hindu, and Buddhist. I don't think they planned, I don't think they even realized, it was like a mad grab. I don't know. So I don't know how to predict or explain what is taking place there now. I just am a mom, and I want my only son to come home to me. I'll take him with one arm. We'll make him okay, but I need him back.
We can't even begin to imagine the pain as a mother that you are going through. As we pointed out, the photograph with you and Elon Musk and Isaac Herzog, you've had a chance to be in proximity to Israeli leaders. They keep saying that at some point kinetic military operations have to resume in order to prevent October 7th from ever happening again. What is your message to them about that and maintaining the ceasefire in hopes that all of the hostages can come home?
Well, I'm not a politician and I'm not a military strategist or a tactician. As I said before, I'm a mom, and I think it must be very difficult if you have a two-pronged approach and they feel that they are in conflict with each other. So I don't presume to understand or know how you go about a military, maneuver trying to wipe out something that is an idea. I don't know how you wipe out an idea. I do agree that October 7th can never happen again, that we need to be safe. Citizens need to not be afraid to go to sleep in their beds. Citizens, young people need to not be afraid to go to a music festival that was called the Music Festival of Unity and Light. So we have two seemingly a bit conflicting objectives. And I'm very hopeful that we can become creative and insightful and use our intellect and figure out ways that we are not constantly returning to this cycle of violence, not just in our neck of the woods, but all around the world, that seems that always it's the innocent people who suffer the most. And I just don't see it as ultimately being very productive to constantly be returning to this cycle of revenge, violence, hatred, pain, revenge, violence, hatred, pain. It's familiar to us. It's very known to us. I don't know that it's really working for us as a planet or as a human race.
Rachel, we are praying for your family and for your son, your only son. We hear you. You just want him home. 23 years old. You know, as the time passes, we've noted that some of these hostages have been in captivity during birthdays. Does he have one coming up? He's 23, correct?
Actually, he turned 23 on October 3rd. He was at the festival celebrating his birthday.
Right. We're praying for you, Rachel, and your whole family.
We are.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.